The White House released its vision for the future on Monday, and it includes much higher war spending. President Biden's budget blueprint for fiscal year 2023 requests over $770 billion for the Pentagon. That's an increase over his request from last year. At the same time, Biden touted that the budget would reduce the deficit by $1 trillion. Here he was on Monday pitching it.
My dad had an expression. He said, "Don't tell me what you value. Show me your budget. I'll tell you what you value. Don't tell me what you value. Show me your budget, and I'll tell you what you value." Well, the budget I'm releasing today sends a clear message to the American people that what we value. First, fiscal responsibility. Second, safety and security. And thirdly, the investments needed to build a better America. The previous administration, as you all know, ran up record budget deficits. In fact, the deficit went up every year under my predecessor. My administration is turning that around. Last year, we cut the deficit by more than $350 billion. This year, we're on track to cut the deficit by more than $1.3 trillion. This budget provides the resources we need to keep Americans safe, ensuring that our military remains the best prepared, best trained, best equipped military in the world. This budget also provides additional funding to forcefully respond to Putin's aggression against Ukraine and its economic, humanitarian, and security consequences. The world has changed. In addition to dealing with terrorist organizations, for the second quarter of the 21st century, we're once again facing increased competition from other nation states, China and Russia, which are going to require investments to make things like space and cyber and other advanced capabilities, including hypersonics. And this will be among the largest investments in our national security in history. Some people don't like the increase, but we're in a different world today.
Reducing deficits and supercharging military spending. Sounds like a neocon. Now, that's not entirely accurate. The blueprint does include things that the right won't abide by at all, such as increased taxes on the rich and social spending programs to create free pre-K education, community college, and a program to negotiate prescription drug prices. But in their first year in office, Democrats have been unable to pass most of Biden's agenda items, so it's unlikely they'll be able to during an election year either, when conservative Democrats get extra squishy about more social spending. But the war spending stuff will be embraced by both parties. Biden proposed an all-time high military budget, and it's likely Congress will give him even more than he's asking for, like lawmakers did this fiscal year. They'll deliver on Biden's requests for increased spending to counter China and Russia and a boost in funding for the nation's nuclear weapons. Biden also called for increased spending on federal police and border agents, which both belies right-wing talking points that Democrats support defunding the police and also makes clear to abolitionists that the party is not at all on their side following the historic Black Lives Matter protests against police brutality that preceded Biden's election. The budget also includes funding for further construction on a southern border wall. The New York Times described Biden's proposal as a, quote, center-leaning budget. Russian and Ukrainian negotiators are meeting in Turkey today for a new round of ceasefire talks. It's been weeks since the last discussions, and the war has changed considerably since then. The Ukrainian military has launched a counteroffensive, pushing Russian forces back in the areas to the north around Kyiv, and military leaders in Moscow appear to be scaling back their objectives. Last week, a top Russian army commander said they were shifting focus in their invasion to the main goal, liberation of the Donbass, suggesting that early plans to capture Ukraine's capital are now off the table. That's reflected in Russia's new negotiating position, according to the Financial Times. Several sources tell the outlet that Moscow is no longer demanding denazification or demilitarization of Ukraine and would be satisfied with Ukraine pledging neutrality on NATO and seeking security guarantees from individual countries instead of the Western military alliance. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he is ready to make such a deal. It's believed that an agreement to end the fighting could then open up space to further discuss territorial questions regarding the so-called breakaway republics in East Ukraine and Crimea. And finally, COVID cases and deaths continue to decline in the US. That's good news. But it didn't stop the world's richest man from acquiring the virus. Elon Musk tweeted on Monday that he got COVID. Again, this is the billionaire government contractor's second time contracting COVID. He got it in November 2020 as well. In between both cases, Musk has cast doubt on vaccines and showed support for trucker protests in Canada and the US that railed against public health measures to fight the pandemic. Musk said he is experiencing almost no symptoms. Oh well. While overall cases are dropping in the US, the country is particularly vulnerable to a new wave of COVID infections and variants of the virus. During an interview with the Washington Post last week, the White House's outgoing pandemic response coordinator, Jeff Zients, said the U.S. doesn't have enough money currently to purchase a fourth round of booster shots for all Americans who might need one come the fall. Science is still not settled on how necessary a fourth dose is, but research has shown the waning effectiveness of the two-dose vaccine regimen plus a third booster over time. That, combined with the chances of new variants emerging from other parts of the world, has health officials concerned that the U.S. could be caught flat-footed again. No country in the entire world has handled the pandemic worse than the United States. Hey, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our new videos. Also, if you want to see Means Morning News in its complete form, not just the clips we post here, head on over to Means TV and get access to all our new episodes and our entire backlog, plus tons of other great movies and original TV shows.